Here we go. Hello and welcome everyone to an interview with Dr. Anna. And I am your host, Dr. Anna. And today we have the most incredible woman out there. We have Dr. Janelle Cox. And actually, the last time I spoke with Dr. Cox, she was Dr. Bettis.
Yes,
So I owe you a congratulations, Dr. Cox. I
thank
believe
you.
on your nuptials.
Yes, I'm still getting used to it. But
So
yeah,
so welcome to this interview. This is an interview where we want to amplify Black women doctors, and you were one of the people on my list when I had a list of people that I really wanted to interview. You were one of my interns at Argosy,
yes.
and you were brilliant then. And I knew that you were going to come up and do fantastic things, which you're doing right now. So, first of all, I have to ask you, how are you doing? We are, after all, in a pandemic, right?
We are.
How are you doing? How are you feeling? How's the family? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, so I'm trying to be better with being more mindful, more present, and in the moment.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that was maybe one of the more positive things that have come out of COVID is the hustle and bustle that we all do every single day, to really work on being more present with my mind, with
Yeah.
my body, and my spirit. So, when people used to ask me that question, I'd be like, I'm fine, everything's good. And so now I kind of pause and I say,
Hmm.
how am I feeling in this moment?
Exactly.
Let me actually
Exactly.
kind of stop and be very intentional about this. And so, today is a good day. I had some meditation has been something that I've started to include. Contemplative prayer
Sure.
has been something. Even something as small as having my tea and looking out the window at the snow today is relaxing for me. So that, and then now I stop and I say, I'm in good health. My family is in good health. I have a job. Not everyone
Yes.
can say that.
Yes.
Um, and something else that I don't know that I've shared with everyone is, oh, I'm pregnant. Yeah. And so that
Don't
is,
make me cry.
yeah, that,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Oh,
So pregnant during a pandemic
oh
has been
gosh.
an experience as well. And so that has made me definitely be more present with my body and
Yes,
making sure that I'm connected, because there are things changing every day.
yes,
So that's
yes.
how I'm doing.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
Of course, I'm
you.
stuck with the baby. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And
Thank
like
you.
I said, it's always good to see you. And you
You
always
too.
have some surprises. You know, like, but good ones, good surprises.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So you graduated from August University. What year was that?
I graduated Argosy University, Northern Virginia in 2017.
17. Okay. So what was that journey like? What was the PhD, and what path did you take to get to the PhD?
Yes, my story.
Yes.
So I will be very truthful about my
Oh, please do.
story
Please do.
because I do think it can be helpful, because even back from undergrad,
Yes.
I know people who loved undergrad. I
Mhm.
loved undergrad as well. I didn't like the academic side, I'll say that. I
Yes.
like the
Yes.
other
Well,
side. And so that required me to learn how to excel academically. And so I was first generation, someone kind of going away to college, like a more traditional sense.
mhm.
So my mom, she was in college. My uncle, he was in college, but they were adults and had children and careers. And so I was the first to kind of do that traditional path. And so there were a lot of things I just didn't know
Yeah.
because they had never did that before.
Mhm, mhm.
And I ended up going to ODU in Virginia
Okay.
my first year. So that was far enough from home, but not too
Not
far,
too
because you can
far.
take the
Yes.
train, the bus, to get back.
Mhm.
And I bombed my first semester.
Oh gosh.
Totally bombed. Yeah, for the non-academic ways that you I had a lot of
Having
fun.
way too much fun.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I had a lot of fun.
okay, okay.
And, you know, so I remember calling my mom and I'm like, because I was like an A student, A B student all throughout. And my mom's like, no, you have to finish. Like you started this. And I'm like, lady, I'm ready to come home. Like this isn't working. And she's like, you gotta finish it. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I went back and so I was on academic probation and I had these courses to take and I did them because I never really knew how to how I learned how to study. Like those weren't things that I necessarily learned in high school because I was able to kind of show up and do what I needed to do. And
Yeah.
college was a different level academically.
Mhm.
And so did really, really well, came back
Good.
and was like, okay, but I think I'm ready to come back home. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I ended up transferring to Bowie State and I went, and I started off as a nursing major as well. So that
Okay.
along with having a lot of fun, my maturity level was not where it needed to be for nursing school because those students were studying all the time.
Mhm.
And at Bowie, I was still nursing major, and I was at Bowie for a year. And then I said, I think I want to go to UMBC. So I ended up going to UMBC, and that's where I finished. So,
Wow.
that I say that journey because it was a lot.
Yeah.
So I ended up at UMBC, applied to nursing school, wasn't a good fit for me.
Mhm.
And so I said, because I didn't get in also, I'll say that I didn't get in because my grades just weren't where they needed to be for nursing school. So I said, okay, what else do I like to do?
Yeah.
What else can I do? And I'm ready to get out of college. So, I'm looking at my courses, talking to my career counselor. And so psychology, abnormal psychology was actually what I really, really liked.
Yeah.
And physiological psychology, maybe that was abnormal, I can't remember, but learning about the anatomy and things a little similar to nursing school, I liked that. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do psychology. So I ended up graduating with my BA in psychology from UMBC.
Okay.
And so after that, I ended up getting my first job in Vesta. I'll say names. I guess it doesn't.
Okay.
I don't have anything negative to say about it.
Okay. Good. I was like, if it's bad, don't say their names. No.
Right. And so I started there as a let me see. I guess it was called a support counselor, but it was pretty much kind of like PRP.
Like a behavioral staff.
Yes, like a behavioral staff. And so we ran the day program, we ran groups, we picked them up in the mornings, gave them medicine, took them to their doctor's appointments. And so through that, I had a caseload, and my boss at the time was an LCPC. And so he was a really good boss in that he knew, I was bachelor's level. Most of us were who were there. However, he gave us the skills that you probably would for a master's level because he was just a really good supervisor, to be honest. So what he said to me was, I really think this could be something for you if you're interested. And so I had never heard of counseling, social work. We had not gone to counseling in my family, more of a traditional sense of Black family. We just did it, So I was like, I don't really know what that is. And so he's like, it's what you're kind of doing when they come in the office and you're talking to them about, some of the things they're going through, or being able to de-escalate some of our clients when they were having conflicts. And so I said, okay, maybe. So I ended up
quite sold on that.
I wasn't, because I was like, how about this? But let me see. So I ended up at Argosy, Northern Virginia for my master's program. And at my interview, I learned a lot more. I had started to do some research, and I was trying to figure out social worker counseling. And counseling really felt like the home for me because it was more focused on like a holistic perspective and not just kind of like a medical model necessarily. And so what solidified for me, my master's program was great, but really what solidified for me to get my doc was during my practicum and internship experience. I first did my practicum and internship at a family counseling place because that's what I thought I wanted to do primarily.
Yeah.
And that was a really great experience. My supervisor, again, was great there. I definitely want to do family and kids, but not just family and kids. So I ended up at another place. I won't say names anymore, but all good places though. All good places. So I ended up my internship to somewhere else, and that was great too, in a kind of a day program, more of a social work kind of feel. But they had wraparound services. So they had residential. I was in the day program, so we had like a garden that we did classes. It was just great. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And so that experience was so meaningful to me, and I learned so much about myself through to be a counselor, which is what you should do. So they did a good job with that. That I was like, wow, I would love to be a part of that process for other students. And so my advisor at the time, she was like, I think that a doc program would be good for you. And I was like, because here I am. I hated undergrad, and I hated undergrad because it's like I'm taking all these courses that have nothing to do with what I want to do. It's a waste of my time. And that's also why I love master's program, because I was like, okay, this is what it looks like to actually
do concentrating on the stuff.
I was like, and then I was like, research for a doctorate. I don't really know if I have that ability. And so, her and I talked, and kind of where I was in life, and it was really flexible, and, just what she saw in me that I didn't necessarily see, which is often a common theme. I don't see those things, but, I'm learning to step into, who I am.
Light.
Yes. Yeah. And what I can contribute to people. It's hard to see that sometimes. So I said, okay, all right, I'm going to try it. Here I go again, trying things. So I ended up starting at Argosy, continuing on right after my master's program.
Okay.
And the first couple classes, I was like, oh, this is it. I think this is it for me. I was like, oh, I like this. The teaching and higher education course, that was phenomenal, because I had never done like teaching formally. So that was an area where I wasn't as comfortable kind of doing it. And so, learning about K-CRAB and learning outcomes and how to make classes interesting, because I also remembered when I went to college and how boring my lectures were, to just sit there and take in information, and I wouldn't learn that way. And so that was great. And then when I got to co-teach my internship and practicum at the doc level, co-teach, that was where I really fell in love, because I got to, and I did some content, but really I'm a licensed clinician. So I did the practicum and internship courses. And I just loved it, because I was seeing clients at the time. And so I saw how that translated to working with my students and the clients that they worked, but then also from a higher lens of being a counselor educator, of why it was so important that my students, things like taking culture into consideration, because I was in-home counselor as well. And I was working in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And economically, it was a different social economic class than what I was raised in. And it was a humbling experience to work with clients in their homes, where I saw everything. And it made sense about some of the things that they were experiencing, the diagnoses, how to be mindful of that. The DSM can be a really great resource. And it's there because, we need to get paid. That's why it's great it's there. But it can be incredibly stigmatizing if we don't take into consideration those other factors that in an office we may or may not hear about or see or understand, because of our different worldview as well. So that is where I fell in love. And so I was able to connect with one of my mentors who, because I was definitely first generation going into a doc program. No one in my family has ever done that before. So it was a different beast. Different kind of games to learn, different kind of ways to
different rules.
Yes, different rules. And so she just did a really great job of things like when she was like, you need to go to this conference or apply for this position so that they can pay for you to go to a conference. And in my head, I'm like, so I have to use my PTO to go to a conference that I have to pay for. Help me.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Understand this? Because at that time I was with my partner. We were trying to buy a house, it's some things going on that I'm like, I need to make sure this is okay.
Yeah.
And so she just really took the time for a lot of the things that I was like, I don't understand. Can you help me? Understanding how it related to getting a job in the future or making connections with people in the future. Because at the master's level, it's really about that clinical work. And at the doc level, we're looking more of a career as a teacher and what that looks like, and learning different institutional things. And so she really did a great job of really helping me to understand the lay of the land as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so from there, I graduated in 2017,
Yeah.
and that fall I graduated, that spring I was able to get a job full-time at a university. And now after a year I left there, but now I'm at my current university, Bowie State, where I've been there. This is now going into my third year.
Third year, yeah. You love Bowie.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'll say this.
Okay.
It is a wonderful thing being at an HBCU. I will say that. That is one of the most meaningful things, is that we know as Black and brown people, we don't have a lot of Black and brown counselors at all.
Yeah.
And so training Black and brown counselors, it's got a different impact for me.
Yeah.
Than kind of just,
it just hits differently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love it there. It's like a family. We have K-Crep, and so that keeps us busy as always. But it's definitely teaching the students, working with other faculty who share a lot of the same values that I do around social justice and race, and some of the things over the past year that if I were at some previous PWIs, it would have been a little bit more difficult, I think, to manage.
Yeah. And I was gonna sort of touch on like systemic racism and racial microaggressions, to see if you heard, maybe not necessarily in the HBCUs, but like getting the path to PhD. I'm sure there were some moments where it was sort of like a wait, what did you say, kind of thing. And I was just wondering what those experiences were like and how you were able to sort of cope with them and maneuver through them, because they're tricky. Those things, particularly racial microaggressions, are very, very, very tricky to sort of maneuver. Yeah,
because it's that racial battle fatigue. You're constantly
it's that. Not like what they was that a compliment? Was that?
And if I say something,
I say something, am I being an angry Black woman? Yeah, that sort of thing.
Oh man,
exhausting.
I'll think of I'm gonna, for the sake of time, I'm gonna think of one that kind of pops up in my head very immediately.
Okay.
I was somewhere at a conference, and a white man touched my hair, and I had so I've been natural.
I'm already sweating. I'm
just like, natural for like 7 years now, 7-8 years, and I love my hair. It has been a transition. As I think all women, when you're transitioning, and there's and it was, your hair is so pretty.
Yeah.
And I think my hair was straightened. And so my hair is straightened. All of my life, people are, oh, what are you? From Maryland? I'm a woman. They assume that I'm biracial. And so I'm like, oh, I'm just Black. Like, that's me. But it's this assumption. What it did for me in that moment, because it was like, I think I was maybe one of 2 people of color. And so it's like, when you're in spaces like that, you also are like, I don't want to
smack his hand off your head. Yeah. And
Or
tell
flip
him,
that. I don't want to be the angry Black woman,
right,
right?
exactly,
I
exactly,
never want to do that.
exactly.
And so he's like, your hair is just so, it's so straight. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? With the smile on my face. And I think he recognized that what he said did
Stuff.
not fit right the way he thought it would. And I said, Black women, we have all different kinds of hair and we can maneuver our hair a lot of different
Anyway,
ways.
yeah.
And I said that and I walked away.
Good
And
for you.
well, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure he'll go back and say, well, I just thought that I was giving her a compliment. I mean,
Yes.
I'm sure he'll go back and say, or hopefully he'll go back and say, wow, that was a learning moment for me. And maybe I shouldn't touch a Black woman's hair ever again.
No, because
So
we're taught very young, you don't let anybody touch your hair.
no, touch your hair.
Don't do that. My mom has worked very hard to do my hair for the whole week.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, thank you for that. So thinking about, people who really want to pursue their doctorate or pursue a PhD, what advice would you give them in terms of what they should look out for, what they should look for to be successful in that journey?
So I'm thinking of definitely two things
Yeah.
that are popping up. The first being, whenever I have anybody who wants to get a doctorate, a student that I'm talking to, I really say to them, what do you envision yourself doing with it? If it is you want to teach, you want to do research, then yes, I think that could be a place for you. If it's for the name, it is not for the faint of heart.
I just want to be a doctor.
It is not for the faint of heart. It will challenge you in ways that I don't think I knew I would be challenged. You will sacrifice a lot. You will sacrifice your time.
Yes.
You will sacrifice your health.
Relationships sometimes.
Yes. So, often I did not have time to date because this was about my career. Like, this is what I was focused on. You will sacrifice your friends and family. If there's not other people and there wasn't in my circle, then it is very hard to explain to them why you need to read 10 articles instead of coming to hang out. Or, going to a party, things like that. So if it's just to have the name, I don't know if that's not at least what it should be about, to be honest, because it's a lot of work. If you are a person of color, oh my gosh, we need you so badly. So badly. I cannot think of the many students who have said to me, they want to know my journey. They want to know my story, right? And they share with me, they may have never had, especially a Black woman who is their professor. And it's an amazing experience for them. And for me, it shows me what I do is much bigger than me, right?
Oh God. It's
much
bigger. It's amazing. and of course, representation matters so much.
Yes.
So much. And I'm sure they've never seen a female Black, professor, probably ever, and probably didn't think that was possible. And for you to be there and that for them to have access to you, it's everything. Everything.
Yes. I've had students call me after I've not been at places anymore and have said to me, I'm feeling targeted as a Black woman. And I can say to them, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I felt those things too.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. And let's talk about how you can navigate that. Use me as a support system. I'll say another thing that pops up is mentorship for different things that I've needed has been incredibly important. You know, there aren't a lot of people of color in academia. However, those that are here, most times we are willing to listen and help you to navigate this. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to give back to people what I had to learn partially at times. And then I've been able to, because I used to think I would bother people if I was, asking them about their experience or what they thought. And so I remember one of my really close mentors, she had said, no, that's what I'm supposed to
be here for.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I mean, things as far as like being a mom in academia, like what does that look like? Or, going up for tenure, like what do I do? Or, they're wanting me to do this at this, here, and I don't know if I should or not, but I don't, mentorship was incredibly important as well. So if there are others that you connect with, share, keeping those relationships as close as you can, that also sticks out to me.
Good.
And then the last one is, I think, one that has become a lot more solidified for me to tell, especially people of color. I think it is important now more than ever. I think it always has been, but I think more now than ever to be in a space where you can be your authentic self with maybe not everybody, because you can't do that for everybody. But there are, like, I would not go to a university that doesn't focus on identities of who you are. That isn't a value of theirs. I think getting a doctorate is a very personal journey. And so if you can find spaces like that where you feel like these people are authentic, this could be home, then and of course money, who's going to pay you, hopefully it all aligns. But in some of the doc students I've talked to that are not happy, it is typically for those types of reasons where, the faculty aren't supportive, or, they see other opportunities going to their white counterparts, and they're not getting any. And so that's not what we do as counselor educators. We try to spread the love as much as we can.
Exactly.
And as people of color, we typically know why they may not be getting some of the love. So those are some of the things that pop up for me.
Okay. And those are fantastic. So listen up, guys. Fantastic. Okay. So I just looking at the time. I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. So wonderful. I could sit and talk forever and ever. Okay. So the last question is, what quotes really that they love, and what quotes inspires them? Because I think quotes are just amazing, and I think if you can see one quote that's really inspiring on a day where you're just not feeling so great, I think it just sort of picks you up and makes you sort of, okay, I can do this today. So what's one of your quote that inspires you?
Yeah, so I thought about this morning as I was doing, I've been thinking about it, but I'm like, okay, I want something that really is meaningful to me, like you said, something that when the days are really long and tough, this is what can kind of uplift me and remind me of my purpose and my meaning. And so for me, that was the Beatitudes. So in Matthew, I love the Beatitudes. I just love them. The one that sticks out the most to me because I have always been someone who's tried to keep peace.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
Yes. And so that is the one that stands out to me, right? And so how that has transformed for me, though, is peacemakers, though, also have to ruffle feathers.
Yes.
Justices, right?
Yes.
So peacekeeping.
That's what Jesus did.
Exactly.
Yes.
So peacemakers aren't I think I used to think you keep peace by not saying anything, by just learn.
Yeah.
So when I see that and I'm like, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I'm like, okay, all right, Janelle, this is one of those times where peacemaking actually means you gotta shake some things up, especially when it comes to like injustice,
Yeah.
that are unjust,
Yeah.
unethical.
Yeah.
And so when I see that quote, I think of myself as, yes, I want to keep peace. However, I also want to make sure that things are done in a just way as much as possible for myself, for my students, for my family, for my friends, for our communities.
Exactly.
I mean, our communities are suffering, our world is suffering right now.
Yeah.
And so that is the quote that I thought of that really helps me. I mean, all of the Beatitudes, but I really love the peacemakers because that one really reminds me of myself.
Amazing. Yeah. I can completely see that. I can completely see that. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this has been, like I said, I can speak with you for
It's been
hours
great.
and hours and hours on end, because
Yeah.
you have such pearls of wisdom, such jewels to impart on so many people who hopefully will be listening to this. I think you are fantastic. I've always told you that. And I saw, when you were my intern, I was like, this girl is going places. And I hope I'm there to see her go through all of it, because she's going to be fantastic. So,
well, I'm just honored to have a story to share, right? And
yeah.
I'm just honored that you would even think of me to be able to contribute, to someone else's story. But I can give everything I have because, everyone has a different journey. And so I'm just honored that you would even think of me.
Time. You're the bee's knees, girl. So thank you very much for doing this. I wish you all the luck in the world. And of course, speaking about mentors or things that you need, if you see the need of calling or reaching out to me about something or other, please let me know, and know that you are always welcome. There's a open door policy with all my people. So make sure that if I can do anything, let me know. Okay. And of course, last but not least, congratulations on the baby.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Bringing a Black queen into the world is definitely.
Oh,
I felt honored and blessed that God has said, this is what I have for you. And so that also changes a lot of perspectives that you have as well about raising our children in our world.
Yes, absolutely.